Welcome everybody to the PHC Wrap Up Show, live here from the NCHA Futurity. Joined today Mr. Matt Gaines here in the middle and Tim Smith on the end. Well, I'm honored to be here around you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's the Futurity is always such a fun time. This show is so unique, and there's so many different aspects to talk about with this show. It's often been called the most level playing field that we have. And it's just non-stop action from start to finish, and we just completed the 6th day, so we had 6 days of open first go-around competition, and it's been strong yet again. I mean, the bubble, we ended up at a 213, Tim.
Right.
I was looking up some stats. For the last 5 years, we've had 213 and a halves has been kind of a common number. We had a 14 and a half in 2020, I believe. So we're down half a point from the average, but overall it's still been strong.
It's a good bunch of horses, Mark, and we took a set extra. Basically, there was a few extra 13s there at the bottom. You crawl up there looking at 75th to 80th. That's got 217ish. So we're going to need to be a 33ish probably to be in the hunt come semifinals time. But a good bunch of horses. The cows have been good. I think that's been a huge plus. Maddie, I know wanted to touch on the schedule. It's been nice to be able to go have dinner, huh?
Oh man, yeah. It's been these 7 set days. I'm all in.
We
can keep doing it. Let's keep doing it.
I saw Johnny Mitchell come walking through the door from where our booth is here, and Cheyenne was just walking across there, and Johnny took a beeline straight for her, gave her a big hug, and all I heard was, "Thank you for the schedule."
It's darn sure been nice not to. The 9:30, 10 o'clock nights and then driving wherever you got to drive to, but that 7 set days have darn sure been good, and 6 sets only today, so they've done a great job of stretching this out a little bit and giving us a chance to get some rest, the guys that are working all the horses.
Well, and it's nice too to a lot of times at these shows you don't even have time to visit with your customers,
right.
Spend a little time with them, and
right.
So it's really good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only downside that I've seen on the schedule, we talked about, is Thanksgiving Day. It's a pretty full schedule that day, but you know what? Maybe we take these 6 days and these other days, and we gut it up and go for it. I mean, I know they've done everything they can to try to work that schedule around.
Right.
But these 7 set days, like I said, sure has been nice. The weather's been great. So far we're going to get a bit of a cool front coming through, I think, here in a few days. But overall, it's been a great start to the show.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the leaders so far. So on day 1, the first day, we had Ronnie Rice, the legend. I mean, he comes in here year after year, and I was talking to somebody the other day, I was talking to Teresa about 3 or 4 years ago, and I believe she said that he'd made like 28 or 29 semifinals here.
Right.
I mean, that's unreal. But he's Mr. Consistency when it comes to Will Rogers in November and December. He marked a 220 on Tag That Wood, owned by Robert Shaw. And just really started the show off with a good feel right there.
Well, he did, and that first morning I got in here in the 2nd set, and it was pretty cautious. There was not a whole lot happening, and typical Ronnie fashion, he went down there and whacked him some cows that zipped around there and kind of broke everybody loose. And he's not afraid to go fast. We know that, and that's a very trained horse, and he did a great job showing him.
Yeah, that horse looked good too.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it looked really good.
Yeah. Well, and then on day 2, on Tuesday, Clayton Carter. So we went to the other end of the spectrum. We went from one of the most experienced cutters here to Clayton Carter, one of the up and coming guys that's really been making a name for himself and has had quite a fall this year, training for Carol Ward cutting horses. He came in and marked a 220 on Raise the Greatness for Carol, and is currently leading the Limited after day 6. So that score held up for the lead in that one. And we also saw Kenny Platt with a 220 on Too Hot to Tag for the J.H. Nail Ranch. I believe that was a Wes Ashlock horse originally. And then a Dan Banuelos, a 222 on Raising the Limit for Katie Banuelos.
Yeah, that's kind of all in the family, and that horse has been a star all the way along. He's out of Medalistic, one of their great show mares, and he certainly looks the part. I mean, he's a contender. There's no doubt about it. All of those horses are, but that horse has got quite a reputation. He's been good all year, and certainly showed well the other day.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Adan came here, I believe, with 36 or 37 open entries. So the 2 that he's showing are going to be the cream of the crop right there.
Just to touch on Clayton Carter's horse a little bit. He was at my pre-work. That's a really good horse. I look for him to do good.
And she's beautiful. That is a
Yeah.
beautiful mare, and I mean, he showed her strong. He was first in the set, and
He shows them all strong.
yeah. Well, you could say he's an up and comer. I don't know how long we're going to let him be an up and comer. I think he's already here.
I think we've crossed that bridge.
Yeah, we've crossed that bridge. He's here, and I'm sure this is his last year in the limited or whatever we're in there. But that's a damn good horse.
Yeah.
Really good.
She is pretty.
Yeah. Tim, will you scoot your chair over just a little bit? You just kind of, there you go. I had this all set up ahead of time and I didn't check where you were sitting when we started, but that's perfect right there. Then day 3 comes along, Kenny Platt. I mean, he's just had an amazing fall. Puts down another 222, so he already had a 220 the day before, a 222 on his second horse, The Player, owned by Iron Rock Ranch, and I believe that's Billy Foster.
Billy Foster, and that horse is out of Mom's Stylish Babe, one of the preeminent broodmares in our game, and I watched that horse a little bit at some of the pre-works, and he's Kenny Platt, low, swoopy, and I mean it's right there, and he showed him again very strong, and I think there's a lot more in the tank on that horse.
Yeah, definitely. And then again, one of the young up-and-comers, Langston Patillo at 221 on New Rolls Royce, owned by Nancy and Steve Martin. And Colin called me on this one, and he said, man, he was so happy to see Langston have a good run. He's been fighting his head a little bit, as we all do, and especially Langston going out in the open here last year, turning in his card, and so there's a lot of pressure on him, and so it's great to see him come in there and lay down a good run. That was a good horse.
Really good horse,
Yeah.
Nancy, and he did a good job showing it,
yes.
I thought. Really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice run.
And day 3 was one of the stronger days we had. We also had another pair of 220s, Shane Carlin on IR Metallic Rays, owned by Richard Irby, and then a 220 for Matt Miller on Metallic Reigns, owned by Holy Cow Performance Horses, who also owned the Snafflebit Futurity Champion this year. Yeah. So they're having quite a end of the year here.
Quite a group, and and Shane, he's been beating up the highway in the Open this year, qualifying for the World Finals, and showing really, really good. And of course, Matt is always there, and good owners and good trainers right there, both them guys and the owners of those horses.
Yeah, and Matt, you know a little bit about pulling double duty, just like you do too, Tim, with the hauling. And we sat down. We had a big conversation yesterday that you're going to get to hear in a couple of weeks. That we sat down with Matt talking about his career, and that's one of the things we talked about. The different factors, how that comes to play here when you come show these age event horses coming off a year of showing, on the weekends.
Well, I think that hauling, it definitely helps your showing and makes you a whole lot more confident just in doing your job because you've done it every day basically, and and Shane shows good anyway, but I tell you what, he stepped up there, showed that horse, like he was here to do something, and it looked really good. So and he's a great guy, and helps so many people. And Richard Irby, he's been around this for a long time, built a lot of indoors, a lot of the trainers, including myself at the time back when I was training, he built my indoor, and been in the industry a long time, and it's great to see them have some success there. So
you talk about some of the guys in the intermediate and the limited, Langston and along those lines, but they've been watching pretty seriously for several years, and they see what it takes to win here, and they're puffing their chests out and say, hey, you know what, I can do that. And it's all about the horse flesh. You give anybody that horse and they can get it showed. I mean, this is an amazing group of young people that are showing horses right now, and they are not afraid. I promise you, they're not.
If you look at that list of intermediate and limited people, like pretty much all of them, you give them a good enough horse, and they're going to be competitive.
Yes,
I mean, it's.
Well, and on day 4, and speaking exactly of that, 220, Brad Baxter on Would It Be Fearless, owned by the Over 40 Ranch. I believe that's a catch ride for Cass. I believe, because I think Cass rides for them. But Brad coming in, I mean, he's another name that he's a West Texas cowboy and came in here and just laid it all down. Great to see that. Day 5, 221 was the high score of the day. Bo Gallion on Red Rock, owned by Nate Aylen. That was a Justin White horse originally, and Justin told me today, he says, I'm kind of showing through Bo here, like that was my horse. He sold it, and he's I think he's catch riding some here instead, that was quite a story
Another
there.
really nice horse too.
Yeah. Really good
very
horse.
Trained and very pretty, and of course out of One Red Mist, Rebecca Drake's great mare, and that's another horse too. We've got. I thought there was a lot of young stud horses this year. I mean,
for sure.
and certainly some that deserve to be it. I mean, I'm a Geldon fan, but I mean, there's some darn sure nice studs this year, and some we're going to be hearing from for quite some time.
Yeah, and then we wrapped it up today with day 6. We just finished it up. Grant Setnica came in the last set of the day at 219.5 on Conundrum Rising, a Badboonarising colt by owned by Rio Rocco Land and Cattle. That was quite a pretty run too, right there to finish that off.
Yeah, strong, typical Grant. Get after it.
Yeah, real strong. So that basically wraps up the high scores. I didn't mention Langston Patillo is leading the intermediate as well. So Clayton's leading the limited, Langston's leading the intermediate, and then Kenny and Adana leading the open right now with those 222s, and both raising the cashes.
Yeah, both raising the cashes, and
I've seen several of those this show look good to me. The raising the cashes,
and he had 30 colts entered, and we've got 16 of them back to the second round. So 54%. That's pretty good batting average. But a bunch of good raising the cashes this year. Clayton Carter's mare raising the cash mare, and several others. Obviously, but he's had a great futurity, really good futurity. So
well, and he's got that big incentive up there at the PCCHA futurity as well, and so there's a lot of reasons to breed to raising the cash right now. Aside from just the fact that they turn out to be pretty good horses. Right there. Let's talk a little bit about the entries are down a little bit this year, but I mean it's slightly, and it's here and there. It's not a huge deal, but I think Tim, tell me, but like we're seeing NRCHA Snafflebit was way up this year. The rope horse futurities, there's more of them coming around, and they're all riding these bloodlines, and they're all going to be down there at the Western Bloodstock sales here in a couple of weeks. There's only so many horses that can go around.
Right, and I think that the money that's available in those other disciplines, plus what now the small futurities are paying with the Super Futurity at Vegas and the money at the Bash, and a lot of those colts, although those futurities weren't big in numbers, a lot of them third and fourth horses that would come here are now going to those shows, and instead of putting a catch rider on it here, let's go win 60, 70, 100,000 at the small futurities. But the rope horse futurities and the snaffle bit growing like it has is certainly taking some of those horses away from the cutting futurity and going to other disciplines, and that's great. I mean, broaden our market. You see that book right there? That's the sale catalog, and that's our Bible for Western Bloodstock.
I seen somebody over there with a cart, and I think they're going to build a house out of them because they're about the size of a brick now. But there's over 200 more horses in here this year from last year, and I think we're all seeing that the breeding numbers are going up, the recips are getting harder to get, but there's more avenues for these horses to go to and win money, and that's what's driving the market right now, and it's holding strong.
It's great.
It's been really good. Along with everything the bright side of the futurity, there's also some hard luck stories, and we saw those, and every year, we see some of those. Let's talk about that and not dwell on them, because this is just stuff that happens at the futurity. I mean, it's just there's so many variables. John Mitchell, he's had a tough show here this year. Matt, you were talking about that earlier.
I mean, another really good horse. I mean, one that it deserves to be in there, and just had a good run going, and got paired up on his third cut, and because I'm getting him out, and it was kind of like you could see what was coming and hoping it would it wasn't going to happen kind of deal. But that the cow he wasn't cutting when it started back, like you want it to do, but the cow he was trying to cut, I mean, it just fell right in behind that other cow, and there was never any separation. Where
never saw him.
And that's happened a few times. It's happened to a few people here.
They've been a little tricky to cut. if you went, you'd be better off with 20 cows in front of you instead of 2 cows in front of you with these cattle. They were just maybe a tick calfy, and you know, and it's like, there goes my buddy, I'm going with it, you know, and at the very least it ruins your cut or makes it a negative cut. But we saw a lot of that. I mean, you know, Cass Tatum had
really good.
1 second left, he lost that cow.
A really good horse, and he was having a big time run. And you know, when you've got a horse that you have that much confidence in, you're going to come on. I mean, there was never any doubt in his mind that he was going to finish strong.
Yep.
And we'd be talking about that horse in the 220.
100%.
He did exactly what he's supposed to do.
Exactly,
you know, it just, I mean, unfortunately, that's cutting. You know, I mean, sometimes it happens, and and it's terrible when it does. But I mean, that's, you know, it's part of it, and you know, you feel really bad for him. But you know, the good news for him is that's a really good horse, and there's a lot of cuttings still to come, and he'll win a lot of money on it.
Yeah, and that horse is going to be fresh and rested up come first of the
January,
year.
But you know, this is their first show, not their last show. And it hurts. I guarantee you. The air went out of the building for Cass and for Johnny and for several others that we're not going to mention. But you know, as competitors, we want the best horses advancing. You know, you want to beat the best. You don't want the cows to take them out. You want everybody to be there that last weekend. And those 2 horses, among many others probably that we're not mentioning, certainly would have been there had that not happened.
Well, Tim, I'm going to mention them just because, like, I've been in that boat, and I want these other guys that haven't shown as many here to realize that this happens to the best of these guys. Like, Lloyd Cox went down there, and just whatever, it just didn't work on that cut. That horse just kind of just locked up a little bit, and it just didn't work. And how many times have we bragged on Lloyd's cuts, how beautiful they are, how consistent they are, but it just shows you. I mean, the Futurity is its own animal. You know, and weird things happen. Wesley Gowing comes down here on a horse that's just been phenomenal at the pre-works, and just got lost in the lights a little bit down here. And I've had that happen. I'm sure you guys have had that happen.
It happens.
And that's just part of the mystique of the Futurity, because you just don't know what you have until you put your hand down.
Right, exactly.
Then, let's talk about the catch riders. I mean, that's the other unique thing about this show, is these guys coming in. And Tim, you've been one of the best there is at that game. Talk about, you know, what important part that plays with the Futurity here.
Well, in you know, and I've caught road for Matt, and I've, you know, I mean, Phil and Double G and Clint and on and on and on and on and on for years and years and years. And you know, the one thing we were talking about it up there today, if you're catch riding, that's not one of the 2 guns, okay? And so there's a quirk with that horse somewhere. It doesn't feel as good as it looks, or whatever. But you know, I mean, I've got 2 coming back that I showed for Grant. If you'd have asked me what the scores would be when I got done today, I'd have had them just reversed. The horse I did well on is a nice horse. The horse I advanced on but had a little bit of a whoop-de-doo, I thought she was really, really good, and she is, but she just didn't perform that way tonight. But you know, there's a funny part of this. I mean, you're either a hero or a zero when you're the catch rider. You know, as we all know. I mean, if you get them pedaled to the last round, good job, buddy. And if something goes wrong in the first round, you want the first train out of town. But it's a great opportunity for a lot of the younger guys, or you know, guys like myself that have been on the road all year hauling, and you know, don't have the time to train these colts like we used to, and it's a lot of fun, but you better have some thick skin if you're going to jump up there.
And there's a big need for it. I mean, we can only show 2 here, and you know, so you gotta have those guys, and you know, I think sometimes it's you know, I mean, you still, like Tim said, it may not be the best 2, but out of some of these barns that have 30 head of 3-year-olds or whatever, you know, they're still really, you know, their third, 4th horse is still probably going to be a really good horse. And I think sometimes maybe, you know, when you've been training those horses all year, you know every hole that's there, you know everything in them, and sometimes you put somebody up there that hadn't ridden them that much, you know, they just go show them like they don't have any, you know, any negative thoughts or anything. They just go show them, and you know, and it works.
Well, and it does, and we've seen champions here. I mean, Tony Piggott and several others. I mean, you know, that have gone on. Tim, you made the finals on one when I was at Phil's there that we weren't sure was going to have a shot, and
No.
next thing you know, she's a superstar. But,
yeah.
it's but what goes into Matt? What goes into selecting the catch rider? Are you trying to match a horse with a certain rider, or is it more the style that your training style that you're looking for to match? Or
Well, I mean, in years past, it's just, especially earlier on in my career, we just try to find the best showman you could find.
yeah,
And over the years, like I've found people that seem to get along with my horses, better than others and stuff like that. So I take that into account and go from there. But that's another thing too. When you're trying to get some of the top catch riders
there's
out
a waiting
there,
list.
I mean, like, you better have a very good horse to put them on, or they're gonna find the
Something
best
better.
horses
Yeah.
to get on.
Yeah.
So
They can find.
so you may not always be able to get the person you want.
Yeah.
They might find a better horse somewhere else, and so you just kind of gotta start at the top
Yeah.
and work your way
Yeah,
down.
work your way down.
sometimes,
And
but-
another part of that too is like, for me and Matt, I mean, I've rode horses behind him very successfully, and he rides close.
Yep.
I ride loose. I'm 6'4". I mean,
Yep.
so
I'm
I've
6'2".
Yeah.
Well, you got heels on. Well, you're hanging upside down from your back stretcher, maybe, but
I've had a lot of success with riding for Phil, and I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
But like what Matt says, you want the best horse you can find. I know a lot of guys this year that came from the West Coast with one horse,
Yeah.
and that's all they showed. They
Yeah.
didn't find. They don't want to go down there.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have as thick a skin as I do. I ain't afraid. Let's give it a try.
Well, let's talk about all the Australians and the Brazilians over here this year. I mean,
Yeah,
like I'm seeing, and we've got Roger Wagner out of
Roger's
retirement.
back, yeah.
He's back here showing
really
and did
good
good.
on, yeah.
He hasn't
Yeah, really.
forgot.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
it's but that's what's cool to see is just we've got 600 something entries, whatever, in the first go round. And that's 300 something trainers that are showing, or 300 something people that are showing those. Now there's some non-pros in there, but that's a lot of trainers that this is their big show of the year, obviously, and we get to see them here, and that's what it's a whole unique show, the whole aspect, the makeup of this show, and that's what makes it so cool. I think. And then we've got the legends that we're getting to see back here again. I mean, like we'd already talked about Ronnie, we've got Mike Mowry showing down there, and Cinch. I mean, Cinch is in full-fledged training program, but he's always poised down here. Jody Gallion, and it's fun to see those guys come out.
Jay Jumanville showed one
Yeah,
in the last
yeah.
set. That was that, and I tell you,
really good little horse, too.
darn good
Yes.
horse. Now he had it going on. It was good to see him showing again, and that's fun for us because I mean, those are people that were what I grew up watching, and I mean, it's a lot of fun to see them come in here, and everybody wants to show at the Futurity. There's just something about this show. And that makes you want to get on one and go to the herd. Yeah,
definitely. And part of that is, I was talking to Jay Winborn, the executive director of NCHA, and he mentioned $1.5 million being added to this show, mostly in part thanks to Western Bloodstock, with the sales and with the proceeds from that go straight back into these purses, and that's big. Not to mention that the other incentives that are involved here. I was talking to Kerry Claxton in the office. She said, first thing she said when I asked her, if there's anything different about this year or something new, she said, Mark, there's 15,000 added in the Chrome Cash, and everybody wants in on that deal. Badboonarising stepped up this year and threw in an extra $15,000 there, so that purse is starting to climb up. And I think that's key. Obviously, it's not cheap to do this sport. It's not cheap to come here. There's a lot of commitment, but when there's more ways to win, it definitely gives you more chances to win and bring back on those investments.
Yeah, it's like filling out your bingo card. I mean, there's a lot of ways to win, and the Chrome Cash thing has certainly taken off all over the country. I mean, it really is at all the smaller events too. People are jumping on top of that.
Yeah. 12,000 cows going through the gate here just in these 26 days, 26, 27 days, whatever it is. 40 to 50,000 cows a year. I mean, talk about that, what a job NCHA has to do to put that all together to give us the kind of cows that we expect down here to show these horses on.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, like you said it right there. I mean, that's an overwhelming number of cattle that they have to find, and it's not, you know, it's more than that. It's trying to have the same cattle. You know, we just had 6 days of first go round. You know, trying to put together the
uniform cattle.
You know that, and I think somebody said it was 2,300 head of cattle. I think we used in the first go round. You know, just trying to find those that all come from the same place and they're basically the same size to get through that go round, and then, you know, we come back in 3 days of the second go round and you're doing it all over, and then the non-pro and the amateur. You know, I mean, it's a very tough job, and I think they've done an amazing job of finding us good cattle, especially the last few years. It seems like the cattle have been, you know, I mean, sometimes they're better than others, but 9 times out of 10 they come in here and they look like the type you want and you want to cut, and, you know, sometimes they're not as good as you expect, sometimes they are, but as far as being the right type of cattle when they get here, I think they've done an outstanding job.
Well, another big part of it too is we've got Mr. Roy Carter out there, another legend, and he's back there doing the pre-settling. How has that impacted these shows here?
Go ahead, man.
Well, I love it. You know, there's some people that aren't as much in favor or heavily as favor with it as I am, but I think it's great. To me, I think the cattle tend to stay more even set by set throughout the day and the entire show. Really, you don't see it. You know, we used to see you might have one really good set, and then right after it you'd have a terrible set, and so to me the consistency, they stay a lot more consistent with the pre-settling, and, you know, and I mean, our days go so much quicker. You know, and it's not fun for anybody to sit over there for 45 to an hour,
especially when it's cold over there.
And, you know,
it's cold in that building.
It's cold in there.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, and Roy, you know, I mean, Roy's been one of the best settlers ever. I mean, you know, in this pen, and to have him out there doing the pre-settling on them, I mean, to me, it's a great situation, and I think it works really good myself.
Well, and I think one of the things that I've kind of noticed too is those cows aren't as fluffy for those first couple of draws. They tend to be a little bit more comfortable back there, you know, and stay back there.
Well, and the guys that are settling now, I mean, you can just kind of wander through them. You know, I mean, they kind of know the drill, and you know, the bad ones will identify themselves pretty easily, and you know, and I think, Matty, the key, you know, we want the best cutting we can have, you know, and I don't think the pre-settling takes anything away from it. I think it shortens our days, and I think it's fair for everybody. And I thought that this first 6 days was as even a set of cattle, you know, all the way across. The look of them, the way they handled, there was a couple of ratty sets maybe yesterday afternoon, but other than that, if your horse stayed where it was supposed to and you didn't jump off the page, you could get showed, and that's all we can ask for as showmen, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree, and the pre-settling deal's gotten so popular. I mean, we do it. I mean, pretty much every place they can do it.
Yeah,
we pre-settle the cows, and I think when we first kind of started doing it, there was a little bit of an adjustment in watching the cattle, and because they are a little different when they come in, they've been pre-settled, but I think by now everybody's, you know, comfortable with it, and like I said, I think it works really well, and it dang sure helps speed these days up.
Yeah, for sure. No, 100%. It's just a whole better atmosphere right now. I mean, everybody's upbeat, and it's a positive feel. Everything's been going smooth, and hopefully it continues to go that way, and it's a great way to start it out. So like I said, we've gotten through the first 6 days. Now we're on to the second go-around. So we've got 3 days of second go-around. Matt, talk a little bit about, you know, how just the variables that go into this, because now these guys that have made the second go know that their horse is going to cut. and some of them they've been sitting around for 5 days. Like yourself, you had some
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
You know, so these horses have already had a little bit of a break. We've had some that showed tonight that these guys just now realize they've got a cutting horse, a show horse. They're going to go show. They might be drawn tomorrow. So, talk a little bit about that. The difference from working a horse, getting ready for that first go round, to now getting ready for the second go round.
Well, I don't know if there's a big difference, you know, and as far as getting them prepared, but you know, it's just another part of the futurity, right? Like you said, I showed both mine the second day. The way it looks in the pre-draw, I'm not going to show them again until probably the last day of the second go round. So I've got, you know, so I went for, you know, I worked those horses maybe 5, 6, 7 days straight leading into that first go round, and now here I am. I've got a week basically from when I showed them the first time, and you know, so it's nice in one way because I can give those horses a little bit of a break, but you know, you don't want to give them too much, and you know, but you know, so like mine, I give mine 1 day off just to do nothing. We exercised them a day, I worked them a day, and then the next day after that, I just exercised them again, and then I started back this morning and worked them, and I'll work them kind of, you know, every morning until I show them again, just to, you know, keep that consistency, and everybody has their own way of doing it, but to me that, you know, and then I'll kind of jump ahead a little bit. You know, when we get through the second go round, we've got basically 2 weeks before the semifinals.
16 to 18 days, depending on where you drew. What
you know,
showed,
and you know, so that's another. You know,
catch riders are going home.
How do you juggle? You know, how do you juggle that? And that's all part of the futurity and what makes this so different than any other show. And I'll add too. You know, yes, like all of us that advance to that second go round, you know, we're confident, we know those horses are going to cut, but you know, the second go round to me is always very interesting because you're going to see some horses typically that looked good that first go round that aren't going to look as good that second go round. You're going to see others that look good that are going to look better. And then you're going to see some that maybe were a little shaky that first go round that come back and look really good that second go round. You know, it's so you know, it's just that's all, you know, what makes this show so great is there, you know, some of those horses, you know, they just, you know, they become show horses, and then some of them, you know, maybe they don't handle the pressure quite as good as you thought or you'd hoped.
Exactly.
You know, and so it's interesting to watch that.
And then, you know, another thing to touch on like that, like your horses go back to the country, go back to they're going back to their stall where they lived all year long. You know, probably 65 or 75% of them are here in jail at Will Rogers. You know, they're here, they stay here through the duration of the show, and you know, it's a different environment out there. You know, it's cold, it's noisy, you got studs squealing over here and mares kicking over here, and like, you know, you don't know how they're going to react to that, and that's a big deal. You know, when you're really preparing these horses going forward, and you know, from the catch rider perspective, I mean, you know, I'm not going to get on mine. I mean, I'll get on it behind the judges' stands and go to the herd. But, you know, I showed one tonight, and I'm going to be in the first set in the morning. And the one I showed on Tuesday isn't going to go till the last day. You know, so how do they all take care of that, and how do they prepare them? But I think a lot of people really understand how to get that horse ready. Maybe if they take a little more loping or a little less loping. I think that first round, it's always kind of fantasy land. I mean, you know, you're coming off all fresh, never worked the same cow twice. And, you know, we go in there and basically pre-work them through a run and get showed. The cutting starts tomorrow morning. The real cutting. That's when you find out who's going to advance, and you know, they've got to start stepping up to the plate. You know, you're going to have to, if I've got a 13, 14, 15, I got to mark a 20, 21.
You can't go just trying to get through a run anymore.
You can't. You got to trot on up there and say, well, I'm going to swing at it. I mean, they're no good to do that.
And you know, and even the guys that have a good score, you know, there is no coasting anymore.
No,
not anymore.
You know, it's, you know, you got to go try to have the best run you can every time you go down there, and you know, just go show your horse and try to have the best run, and you know, and as we've seen through the first go round, sometimes things happen that you can't control.
You can't control.
And and that's part of it, and we all know that, but you've got to go down there, do your job, show that horse the best you can, and hope they're there with you.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, Tim, mentioning on like that break in between, and some of the horses are getting to go home to their own stalls. They're getting to go home and work fresh cows or go work round and round in a hackamore, but these guys that are staying here are still committed to that practice pen or the flag or whatever they're working. I mean, some of the guys are hauling off. They've got those friendships where they can go do that. But that's the other part, I think.
Well, and some people are very comfortable with that.
Yep.
I mean, Austin, he works in the far end over there. He does it the same every time at every show every year. Those horses are used to that.
Yeah.
And it works. I think there's times when you are at home and you don't get that really good work. Well, let's run in another fresh cow. Let's run in another fresh cow. Pretty soon everybody's in a sweat. You got somebody calling time. It's like, well, let's trust our training. Let's go cut. So there's two sides to that coin. I mean, when I was riding all of Phil's horses, we would work at the ranch, as you well know, and there was a lot of times we run in another set of cows, and I was like, oh my gosh,
here we go.
Let's go. But I mean, that's all part of it, and you have to understand, what it takes to make it work.
Yeah, I think that, and again, that's part of what makes this show so unique, and what it is. Now let's also talk about, we've got a lot of other things going. I mean, we've been focused on these 3-year-old open horses, the first part. We've got another week or so of that. Then we've got this whole other dynamic coming in, the World Finals. Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, this year, we both have had our gold buckle on, and it was kind of a runaway deal for me. You were in a battle kind of to the end. But this year in the Open, I think it took 46,000 to be 15th, and there was another horse that was 44,000. There's 9, I believe, at 50 or better. Christian has done a fabulous job showing his mare all year, and he's at the top. Tracy could catch him. Mike could catch him. It's going to pay, $45,000 to win if you sweep it over there.
Well, and I'll just add to that. So you said it took 46?
Yeah.
So that's, for people that don't know, that's pretty much double.
What it used
to be. What it usually takes to make
it used to be 20s to 25.
And people are saying, well, how come it takes so much? Well, they used to be 500 addeds and 750 addeds. Now they're I mean, you can't find a 500 added anymore. They're 1,000 to 2,000 to 2,500 to 10,000 or whatever they happen to be. And I think the money that the Shannon and Brokespur Ranch has put in as our title sponsor has, that has made these guys chase it. It's like, man, I can go there for 4 days and I win 45,000.
Yeah. Well, and it's right here, and we're here.
We're
anyway.
here.
And and I hope we keep getting more money in the World Finals. I mean, when you said it's going to pay 45 this year, what if it pays 60? I mean, you talk about seeing people trying to make it. To make it. I mean.
Well, and that market for those older horses, the more we keep that going, the more those horses stay out there and keep going down the road.
Well, you go try and buy a 7-year-old gelded.
Go try to buy anything that's good.
And I mean, in the non-pro, I mean, Elizabeth has kind of run away with it, but there's probably 5 people that could be the reserve champion, maybe 6. Going down through there. And that's great. I mean, the other classes, there's a lot of races that are decided. There's a few that are pretty close, but it's been a really, I think, a good year hauling, and I think there's a lot of excitement around the World Finals this year, and Miss Shannon is darn sure going to make sure it's a show. I mean, she's going to dress
a colorful one.
A colorful one. Yes, she's going to dress it up. And if you go look at the jackets for this year, you can tell she's got her touch.
Okay,
They're going to be pretty special. But But I think it's going to be a great cutting, and there's a lot at stake. I mean, the world title is at stake, and it's been a few years since that's been the case.
Yeah.
You know,
We've got some amateurs that have won a lot of money this year.
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah. We've got 250 amateurs that have won over 100,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
Significantly over 100,000.
Yeah.
One lady on one horse, one rider the whole year, you know, like the Unlimiteds are. I think Deb Winard is in the $80,000 range.
Yeah.
You know, but they've been going hard, those people, but very successfully. We've got a lot of horses that have pulled double duty, but I think it's going to be pretty exciting, and there's a lot of really nice horses this year, like in the Open. I mean, there's the ones that are at the top, but there's another 7 or 8 in there that are going to be hard to get around.
And that Watt Arena, that is just a dynamic place for these world finalists, the cream of the crop in each division to come there, and it's going to be game on from.
It happens fast in the
Yes,
Watt
it
Arena.
It happens fast, and there's not a lot of ties.
Close
Right,
and fast.
now.
There's not a lot of
Right now.
213s that get marked in that
No,
arena. You know, we're
it
going to see
happens
some big
fast.
scores, and we're going to see some low scores, but.
Yeah.
But that's also the fun part, because like these horses are getting a shot to show off the best of the best, you know, and the riders as well, and it's so much fun down there. The atmosphere, I mean, that place gets packed during those open and on pro nights, and again, shout out to Brokespur Ranch for really stepping up and supporting that, and really driving that whole weekend show format, you know, and not just in the Watt Arena. I mean, Shannon and they campaign at the weekend shows and are sponsoring cuttings there and doing things on the outside.
It's great for our industry.
It's absolutely wonderful, and I know Elizabeth has been instrumental as well, not just on the winning side, but also gathering funds, gathering sponsorships, and additional money going into those programs.
They've worked hard, that particular group of people, and you know, I'm not going to name names because we're going to leave somebody out. But they want it bigger, and if it pays 45 this year, I agree, Matty. It will probably
I
pay
hope it
60.
keeps growing.
It keeps
I really
growing,
do.
and that's what makes us keep them horses going down the road.
I'm one of these people. I'd love to see it get to where the guy in 15th rolls in here and has a shot.
And has a shot.
Yeah.
I would love. I mean, you talk about make it exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, a shootout, a true shootout, you know, and I think that's great. And yeah, it's just another exciting part of this. And then we've got the Western Bloodstock sales. I mean, talk about the drama and the excitement down there. I mean, there's some last minute purchases. There's some huge price tags. There's some great horses down there, and that 2-year-old, and I've said it, I've talked with Jeremy about it, I've said it before, that whole 2-year-old market has become a business on its own.
Yes.
And these trainers are now, we're seeing trainers that are just, that's what they're focusing on.
Right.
They're buying yearlings, they're training them, they're staying home, and they're coming here to town. And these 2-year-olds are just, I mean, they're phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and you know, we've got a new at the Teton Ridge. The 2-year-old preview is moving over to Teton with back-to-back arenas, so you know, bleachers and come watch them, which used to be the Rap Ranch preview. But the 2-year-old thing is amazing. I believe somebody quoted me there's 600 and some yearlings and 300 and some 2-year-olds. So if you want to buy something, you can darn sure do it here.
There's going to be plenty to choose from, that's for sure. And and just recapping that, the Western Bloodstock sale preview will be at the TR9 Ranch, so at Teton Ridge this year. This preview, you know, Phil started that initially, and we were part of that, and it's just grown. And like I said before, we've been lucky with the weather there before, and now that it's growing, we needed a bigger venue, and Jeremy has stepped in. He's seen the value in this, and the trainers have seen the value. I've had several of them come tell me, say, hey, my horse didn't video that great, but I got a great preview, and all of a sudden I got some hits on it. So it's going to be the best environment to come preview these 2-year-olds. We're going to have 2 arenas side by side, like Tim said. So while one's working, the other one's getting cows added, and that guy's getting ready over there. And we're just going to go bang, 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 and get a lot more horses worked in a shorter period of time. And I think we're going to have more horses this year, obviously. But it's going to be fun to come and watch these up and comers. And I mean, I don't know. But I know there's a bunch of those ones that went through the sale last year that are going to be showing here tomorrow morning and this over the next 3 days and on the last day.
Have a little better idea when the combos, when the go-rounds are done and we see who's advanced to the semifinals. But every year, I know multiple ones that I watch go through there that have come back and cut and look very, very good. And you can buy the winner. I mean, you can buy the winner out of there.
Oh yeah,
Do your
it's been
homework.
done. I mean, it's been proven, and not just in the cutting. I mean, it's the cow horse and the rope horse as well. I mean, and that's where they're all going. So that's going to be another exciting part. Well, tomorrow morning we've got Horsemen for Christ Church, 7 o'clock over in the Coliseum for you early birds that want to get up and get your get your good deeds on early in the morning. And then at 9:30 over here in the Best of the West Trade Show, there'll be the second service. Breakfast, we're sponsoring the breakfast tomorrow morning, so come on out, enjoy some food and some great fellowship. And I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens here over the next 3 days. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, next 3 days are going to be good watching.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun.
The real cutting starts in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's when all the BS is done, and we got to go show them, you know, for real, and add it together. So, good watching. If you're in town, come watch them.
Yeah, come on, watch. Tim and Matt, can't thank you enough for taking the time and doing this. We got through a lot. I think it's always fun to break these things down. And just while we're talking of that, our main man, Jim Mann, who does all the NCHA Futurity stats that a lot of you follow on Facebook, he had open heart surgery, I think, on about day 2 of this show, so he's been out of commission for a little while. He's doing great, but it's going to take him a few more days to get recovered and start pulling some more stats for us. But Jim, we just want to wish you all the best, and can't wait to see more of your stats that we can help share on these wrap-up shows as well. I'm not as good as you are, Adam, and it's a lot of work for me to have to do them, so I'm sure hoping you get back real soon. So anyway, well, we hope you enjoyed this show. Thanks again to Badboonarising for presenting this wrap-up show, and thanks again, guys, and good luck the rest of the way to both of you.
All right.